Hey guys, if you're enjoying the content I've been putting up, be sure to subscribe so you always know when a new video pops up. Now that we got that part out of the way, let's get into the video. Final Fantasy XIV is a massive game with thousands of hours of content. What I'm going to do here is break down some of the major plot points for those of you who want to know more about Eorzea, but may not have time to experience it all firsthand. This time, we're picking up with the fourth part of our MSQ recap for Shadowbringers. The Sin Eaters brought a giant force to attack Holminster Switch, including a few that you and Eorzea are very familiar with. The giant winged one who murdered Tesleen, and the transformed Tesleen herself. You put them both out of their misery, clearing the way for you to do battle with the strongest Sin Eater you faced, the Light Warden. It doesn't take long for you to understand why it's a leader among its kind, but you're a leader among warriors, so you bring down the beast. With its death, ether pours out of it, and Lena urges you all to run away. When a Light Warden dies, its ether consumes someone nearby, turning them into a Warden and allowing the cycle to continue. However, the blessing of light that flows through the Warrior of Light gives her the ability to absorb that light without being destroyed, and she uses it to do something that Lena hadn't thought possible. She brings the night sky back to Lakeland. All throughout the Crystarium, people stand and gawk at your handiwork, and Morin proclaims that the Warrior of Darkness has returned. Lena rightfully wants to know who you people are. Mainly you, since you were able to absorb ether that should have killed you, but instead you were able to contain it, making her think that legends of the Warrior of Darkness are actually true. The Exarch kneels down before you and says that he'll be willing to die to help you wipe out the Sin Eaters, if you agree to do it now that you've seen what you'll face. He should have asked you that before he kidnapped you, but better late than never. Eorzea wants to know why he's so willing to die for this, because he could have easily killed himself bringing you all across the worlds like he did, and he claims that it was for the sake of the people of the Crystarium. However, the city didn't exist when he first had summoned the Crystal Tower, so there's clearly more to the story. The answer he gives is vague, which is usually what people do when they're hiding things, but that doesn't change the fact that the Scions are willing to help. Since you fully understand what you've gotten into, the Exarch names you his Warriors of Darkness, since you're fighting to remove the light, and you all get ready to head back to the Crystarium after helping the surviving villagers. They're all talking about the Warrior of Darkness, but the Exarch wants you to keep what you did a secret. Everything is changing for the people of Lakeland, so if you show yourself to be the warrior of their legends, it might cause a bit of chaos. Not to mention whatever Valtteri might do if he finds out that you can destroy the Sin Eaters. The Exarch asks Lena to keep your identity a secret as well, which she agrees to do, although she wants him to tell her the truth eventually. You all get ready to head back, but Eorzea wants to go back into the village alone, probably to mourn her friend without looking weak, so you and Alphinaud leave her to it and head back to the Crystarium. The city is calm when you get there, so whatever the Exarch told the people happened at Holminster kept them from panicking. Alphinaud decides to walk around the city while you let Bragi know that refugees from Holminster will be coming soon. When Bragi realizes that you were at the battle, he tells you to go see Glenard, who might have some work for someone as strong as you are. With the news of the Warrior of Darkness appearing to take down a Light Warden, a few of the bounty hunters who visit Glenard's bar decided to take down some very powerful Sin Eaters called the Cardinal Virtues. The Virtues appeared a few years ago, and they look exactly like the Warriors of Light who caused the Flood, and they're all almost as strong as Light Wardens, which means the hunters could use your help when you have time. I've started covering the stories of the Virtue Hunters on this channel, and I'll get back to them soon because they were all pretty interesting. But for now, the Warrior of Light heads back to her room to rest. Of course she doesn't get any because Ardbert's spirit appears to talk to her, mainly because if he appeared anywhere else, you'd look like you were crazy talking to yourself since no one else can see him. He thinks it's funny that he came to your world and claimed to be the Warrior of Darkness, and now you're doing the same on his. The two of you talk for a while, but somewhere off in the distance a strange girl senses your presence and decides to come to you. Meanwhile, back on the Source, the coolest character in the game, Estinian, is invading an Imperial facility. After bashing a Garlean woman with his spear and getting ready to finish her off, he's stopped by Gaius, who lets him know that they aren't his enemies. Both men recognize each other, and Estinian reveals that he's been roped into helping the Scions by Tataru and Kryle, despite the fact that he put a lot of effort into trying to hide from the two women. They have him hunting down Black Rose, something that Gaius and his people have already dealt with at that facility, but there are a lot of places left that house the stuff, and since both men are hunting the same thing, Gaius offers to join forces with the Dragoon as he makes his way to Garlemald itself. When you wake the next morning, you're warned not to leave the Crystarium, because Yulmore has sent soldiers to Lakeland, and the Exarch is trying to come up with a plan to deal with them, so you head to meet up with him and the twins to see if you can help out. Eorzea has someone coming to see him to ask some questions about the death of the Light Warden, and right after you get there, Lena announces that the visitor has arrived. The Exarch casts a spell to hide the three of you before he allows the emissary to enter. It turns out that they sent the commander of the army, General Ranjit, to question the Exarch himself. The man wants to know if the Exarch's people killed the Warden, but before he answers him, the Exarch wants to know why Eorzea cares. Apparently Valthr thinks an attack on the Warden may make relationships between the Sin Eaters and the people uncomfortable, and if the Crystarium is responsible, Valthr intends to go to war with them. The Exarch doesn't admit to anything, but he does say that he's happy it happened, and if Eorzea has a problem with it, then they can attack whenever they want. But even if they do, all of the Light Wardens are still going to die. Ranjit thinks it's a waste of time to fight the Eaters, and everyone should just submit to Valthr so they can live out their lives in peace, but he won't argue the point. He'll tell Valthr what the Exarch said, and whatever happens after that, happens. He goes to leave, but he stops and asks about the artist and assistant who insulted Valthr. While the Exarch denies seeing you, Ranjit makes it known in no uncertain terms that he knows that you're there. Once he's gone, the Exarch lets you know that Ranjit is not someone to be taken lightly. He was leading soldiers against Sin Eaters until Valthr showed up, and he can fight extremely well. With Eorzea sending him, the threats he was making were meant to be taken seriously. But Eorzea has been trying to conquer the rest of the world for a while. It was only a matter of time before they decided to invade anyway. The Exarch was honestly surprised that he hadn't declared war right then and there, but Lena had heard that the Eorzea forces at Laxenloft and Lakeland were busy taking a prisoner, a young woman who they think is the Oracle of Light, Minfilia. Which could be why Ranjit hadn't attacked. He wants to get the Oracle back to Eorzea first. Lena claims Ranjit had mentored generations of Minfilias, so it makes sense that capturing her would be his primary goal. The whole thing goes way over your head, and the Exarch apologizes for forgetting to tell you about Minfilia, but he doesn't have time to explain it to you now, so he sends you to Morin along with the twins, so they can all help you understand, even though Alice doesn't fully understand it herself. While you do that, the Exarch will get ready for war. Morin is more than happy to share what he knows. The man seems happy to have any company at all, so he dives right into the explanation. 100 years ago, when the flood was about to wipe out the land, Minfilia, your Minfilia, who kept telling you to return to the Waking Sands, showed up and stopped the flood. After that, people started calling her the Oracle of Light. She vanished when the job was done, but 15 years later, her name started popping up again. When the Sin Eaters wiped out the kingdom of Obert, a girl showed up who was immune to the Sin Eaters. They claimed she was the Oracle of Light reborn, since she looked exactly like Minfilia, so that's what they called her. She joined the Eorzea army and took down a lot of Sin Eaters before she died. Her last words being, "Pray return to the Waking Sands." Nah, I'm just joking. She said that Minfilia will return, and a few years later, another girl appeared who looked exactly the same and had the same powers. She joined the army, fought the Eaters, and died only to be reborn so the cycle can continue, just as it has up to this day. Had it not been for her and that cycle of rebirth, the people may have never found out about the Light Wardens and how they could be used to rid the world of the light. However, while the oracles all look the same, they don't have memories of their past lives, so with each resurrection they have to start over. Some of them didn't want to fight the Sin Eaters at all, but they were forced to do their duty by the Eorzea. The current Minfilia was found 10 years ago, and she's been a prisoner in Eorzea ever since because Valthr doesn't want people fighting the Sin Eaters. The only reason they kept her alive was to prevent her from being reborn somewhere else. 3 years ago that changed when someone broke into the city and rescued her. And that's all Morin knows, but the person who rescued Minfilia was Thancred. And the two of them have been traveling together, never staying anywhere for long so the Eorzea wouldn't be able to find them. Alice doesn't think it's possible that the girls are the same as your Minfilia since they don't have her memories, but from what we know about reborn Ascians, that's not necessarily the case. Ascians are reborn without their memories, and they need them to be restored before they fully return to how they were before. This could be similar, but regardless, Thancred is protecting the new Minfilia like he did the old one, which means if she's nearby, then he won't be far behind, which means you need to help rescue this Minfilia, and since she's got the same blessing from Hydaelyn that you have, she would be a useful ally. While you're making your plans, the Exarch shows up to let you know that his scouts confirm that it is in fact Minfilia out in Lakeland, and the Eorzea have her. They haven't left yet, but if they get her to Eorzea, then you won't be able to save her. So you have to be fast, and the Exarch wants the people of the city to help because he still wants to keep you and your power hidden for as long as possible. Lena's already gathered the important people in the city so they can help do their part. And after the Exarch explains the situation, even though a fight with Eorzea could very well be suicide, everyone is on board. They'll fight Eorzea to their last breath if that's what it takes to restore the night sky to the first. So together you all get prepared to go to war with Eorzea and to rescue Minfilia. And that's where we're going to stop for today. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on the next part of the story.